Hey everybody, I'm Brett, this is Rob, this is Chantel. We're from InsideJapan Tours, and we're about to take you on a tour through the sights and the sounds of the Asakusa district in Tokyo. Let's go! So firstly, let's talk about this river. This is the Sumida River. It's been historically a major artery that runs through the eastern part of Tokyo, transporting goods and people. Nowadays, it mostly just transports people, as you can actually catch a water bus that kind of just goes along the river, and you can get off and on this bus. The river goes all the way and dumps out at the Tokyo Bay. Locals actually do fish in this river. Mostly they can fish for sea bass, and there are some that you can ride jet skis through there as well. These buildings here are three of the most iconic buildings in all of Tokyo. I'm going to talk about the one on the far left, the very tall tower, a little bit later. That is Tokyo's Skytree. For now, I want to talk about these two here. One is the kind of squarish golden building with the spiky top, and then next to it is a squat black building with a yellow golden object on the top of it. And these buildings, a lot of Tokyoites, one of them is one of the most beloved buildings in Tokyo, and one is one of the most, I would say, divisive here in the city. They both belong to the Asahi company. So if you ever had an Asahi beer company, or a beer, then you can thank the geniuses in that building. But the building in front of you with the spiky top and the yellow body, that is actually modeled after what they sell. That is supposed to be a beer. You think of the spiky as foam, and then the yellow body, that is a draft beer. If you look to the right of it, the squat black building with the golden object, that building is a little bit more divisive. That is the top part of it is supposed to be a flame, as Asahi means morning flame or morning sun. It is colloquially, though, known as the golden tadpole or sometimes the golden turd. But it is kind of one of the most divisive buildings in there because, to me and to most of people in Tokyo, it doesn't really represent what it's supposed to be. But that is definitely two of the most iconic buildings in the city. Now, let's turn around and we will head towards the heart of Asakusa, the Sensoji Temple. It's kind of what this area is known for. Now, right now, Asakusa in general is known as more of kind of a sedate, kind of a quieter part of the city, because the rule of thumb is here in Tokyo is that the further east you go, the older and kind of quieter the city gets. When people think of Tokyo, they think of all the neon lights and the sights and the sounds and the people and the glitz and the glamour, and it definitely has that in spades. But for the most part, that's in the western part of the city. Your area is called Shinjuku, Shibuya, Harajuku, those areas there. Asakusa is pretty far east, and so it's one of the oldest parts of the city, which means it doesn't have the skyscrapers and kind of the big business centers that those other places do have. We're in the fringes right now, so you do see a lot of people coming and going to some big buildings, but the further we go into the heart of it, the more kind of peaceful it does get. To your left is, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, we'll see another one. That is called a koban, which is basically a small police station. People always think, like, well, Japan is very, very safe, and it is. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But one thing that this district is super well known for is its food. All of Japan has incredible food, but Asakusa in general especially has some great food. If you want to talk about this kind of place right here, there's a sign, which is basically it's a green and red sign. If you see KFC, you have to go a little bit to the bottom and the right of it. It's right there. That is a place called Ichiran. Ichiran does amazing ramen. It's a great noodle soup restaurant, but one of the things it's kind of known for, it's kind of unique, is that they really take everything to do with the soup and the noodles very seriously. For example, if you go in there, you can absolutely buy a bowl of ramen and eat it in their main hall with the other people. Not a problem, just a regular restaurant, eat your ramen. Or you can go to the machine, you can buy your ramen, you can customize it on a sheet of paper, and then go to another kind of area where it has these tiny little booths, which are basically closed off to the rest of everybody. It's just one person per booth, and in front of you have a partition with a space at the bottom. You slide over your paper, and then the person gets your ramen, slides it underneath the partition. You never see another person. That way you can absolutely focus on the ramen, on the flavor and the taste and the texture of this ramen, and so you can really get the full experience. Again, it's a kind of unique thing to experience, but something that you definitely shouldn't be missed. Another thing I will point out, because it is very ubiquitous, is, well, you see KFC in front of you. So Kentucky Fried Chicken is, of course, American, but in Japan, they've kind of co-opted it, where KFC in Japan equals Christmas. And why that is because the expat community, especially ex-military in America, they were here in Japan for maybe a long period of time, and what they wanted was something when Christmas came around, which isn't really a thing in Japan as a Buddhist country. They wanted what they got back in the States, which was turkey or chicken. And so the only place to really get that was KFC, and so that's what they would do. They would buy a bunch of KFC and then eat it, and that would kind of remind them of home. Well, the Japanese in general kind of co-opted that, and so now, my wife and I, for example, we eat KFC at Christmas, but you have to reserve your KFC a couple of months in advance. It sounds crazy to think that, but that's actually what we do. And so Christmas equals KFC here in Japan. But see, now actually Japan right now is pretty quiet. We are in a state of emergency, which sounds a little bit grim, but it actually just means that shops need to close by 8 o'clock and you can't really sell alcohol. Again, it's kind of they're being very, very cautious here in Japan right now, and so that's part of the reason. The Olympics are coming up, and so they don't want to do anything to really jeopardize that. Another thing that Japanese love to do is karaoke. And so it is a cliche here in Japan, or I guess for the Japanese in general, that people think, oh, Japan, they love the karaoke, and that is actually true. They do, they love it. So this is a building called Big Echo, a company that does karaoke. This building, and I say building because this is a 7-story building that just does karaoke. It has a ton of private rooms, so all you can do, you can bring your friends, you can get a private room, and then you can actually, at some, you could rent costumes and instruments, and you can just go crazy and just have a great night with your friends, singing your guts out, wearing your crazy costumes. And so karaoke is a kind of a big deal here in Japan. It's something you should definitely do if you come to the country. All right, we're going to take a left here and enter what's called a shotengai. A shotengai is basically just a covered arcade. And these are really, there are miles and miles and miles of these all over the country. Tokyo in particular has a lot of shotengai. They're nice because you can get out of the rain. Sometimes they are climate controlled, but it's nice because you have shops on both sides, usually some great restaurants, as well as some goods shops. You can buy souvenirs, you can buy clothes, there's hair cutters, there's a lot of different things that go on in shotengai. This right here is something that always gets pointed out, which is, you can see this is a typical kind of Japanese cafe. And so what they've done, what a lot of Japanese restaurants do, is they put their menu outside. This is plastic food, and it looks very real. It's a lot of it is handmade and actually very expensive to buy, but it kind of just provides a shortcut to, if you can't understand Japanese, you don't know what's going on, you can just grab a staff member, bring them out here and just point to what you want, which is absolutely something that you can do. And this, again, this comes from after World War II, where a lot of foreigners, a lot of military were here, couldn't speak Japanese, and so the Japanese would just make dishes, put them out in the windows, and then people would just point at what they wanted. You can kind of get a good glimpse here of kind of prices are as well. And so you have, this cafe runs the gamut of things, right? You have parfaits, you have pancakes, you have rice dishes, but it looks like, you know, it's pretty reasonable around here. So around 500 yen all the way up to around 1,600 yen. People have this stigma that Japan is very, very expensive, and it absolutely can be, but it doesn't have to be. You can still get great quality food, great accommodation, and great experiences for very, very reasonable prices if you go with someone who knows what they're doing, or you do your research. Japan doesn't have to be the most expensive place to visit. But to your left here, this is a kimono. store where you can actually rent kimono. So for a lot of people, kimono is Japanese. This is a Japanese traditional dress worn by men and women. But kimono itself is multi-layered. And so you might think, oh, it's very, very hot in the summer, but it's actually multi-layered with light fabric sometimes, especially silk, and so it can actually be pretty comfortable to wear in the summer, but it's multi-layered. So there's a layer here, there's actually a layer underneath that goes against the skin, then it has this coat here, and then it ties it all together is this right here, which is called an obi. So it's a kind of a big belt that ties in the back with kind of a very large bow. And so that just kind of balances everything out. And so this is a very typical kimono. And again, they're worn by men and women. For Japanese, nowadays, you still see many, many people in kimono. A lot of them just dressed up because that's what you do in the area. But for most Japanese, typically you only wear kimono a few times out of your life. One is going to be when you turn 20. You turn 20, that's when you become an adult in Japan. Another time is if you get married, you'll wear a kimono. And then another time is children. Usually when they turn 3, 5, or 7, they'll wear a kimono and then they'll go to their local shrine and kind of thank the gods for various things. But that's kind of the times when Japanese modern wear kimono. But again, they still wear them out all the time, especially in Kyoto. I'm going to take a turn here. Again, all we're doing is we're going to slowly walking towards kind of the heart of Asakusa, which is going to be a Sensoji Temple, which is a fantastic temple, which I'm going to talk a lot more about once we get over there. This place to the left here is another kimono shop, but the interesting thing about this one is many Japanese, because they are so expensive, don't actually own kimonos. And so they will rent them, or this place here actually does recycled kimonos. Again, kimonos can run the gamut from being just kind of expensive to very exorbitantly expensive. For example, geisha. If you know geisha, that is kind of a Japanese dancer, an artist. They have the white faces, very dainty. They have kimonos that could be $10,000 more, $20,000 or more for their kimonos themselves. Again, like I said, Asakusa is very well known for its food. This is a ramen shop. And so what they sell is, again, ramen, the noodle dishes. But one of the cool things about ramen shops in Japan is that you can actually order very efficiently. So again, Japanese, great on efficiency, right? If you go in here and sit down, that's not really how it works with ramen shops. So what you have to do is you first order your food from a vending machine, basically. And so here's the menu. You order your ramen. For example, I want to order this ramen. I put in my money right here, put in my money, order my ramen, order my drinks, order my toppings, and each individual order has a tiny ticket. Then once you're done ordering, you take this ticket, or you take all the tickets, and you bring it inside, you sit down, and they'll come to you, they'll take your tickets, and they'll bring your food very quickly. That way there's no kind of chance to mess up the order or anything. It's you eat very quickly, and then you leave. Because a lot of ramen shops and places like that are just used for lunches, and people are on their lunch hour. They only about 45 minutes or so. You can get in and out from a ramen place in 15, 20 minutes, easy. It's just a nice casual meal, which is super good. So you can see there are people riding bicycles in here. This is a mixed-use neighborhood, and so they have businesses on top of private dwellings. People are just kind of living and going to work all here in this neighborhood. To the right is what's called Senbei. Senbei is a rice cracker, and why these are kind of popular is well, the history behind them really. And so, 200, 300, 400 years ago, even of course the Japanese eat a lot of rice, but to transport cooked rice was almost impossible, right? Because it's going to go bad right away. It's going to go very hard, very stale. And to transport uncooked rice, well, you got to find a way to cook it along on your journeys on horseback. And so what they did is they would cook the rice and they would make it into basically a cracker. And so then it would dry it out, and then they would take that cracker and they could dip it in usually soy sauce. And that way you had a meal or a snack that you could take with you on long journeys. Now I just love to kind of buy them and hand them out to to my clients, and it's just a good way to kind of eat a little bit of street food and kind of connect with that history a bit. Okay, to your right here, you can see a sign that says Family Mart. And why I'm bringing this up might be kind of strange, but Japanese convenience stores are truly convenient in that they are so unique, especially if you come from a Western country, about what they actually do. So Family Mart is one of the 3 major chains of convenience stores here in the country. And what I mean by convenient is it truly is convenient. That yes, you can go in here, you can buy your drinks and your snacks, but you can also buy fresh food that's made every single day, multiple times per day. You can get sushi in there, you can get seafood, you can get cooked meals. You can also buy alcohol in there. You can also just buy any number of magazines and stationery and some it's like a mini drugstore on occasion as well. But one of the cool things is you can actually do many other things. You can pay all of your bills in there, for example, your light bill and your electricity bill, you can pay in here. You can buy concert tickets, you can make reservations on things here. You can also, it's a print shop. You can print things out, you can fax things. You do a lot of things at convenience stores. You can get actually packages sent and delivered. It works as a post office as well. Again, convenience stores in Japan are ultimately truly convenient. We're gonna get on kind of the main road here. The main thoroughfare of Asakusa is this road here.
Hi, hello guys. Let's try rickshaw.
We're gonna walk down through here. Again, we're slowly making our way towards Sensoji. You might see this yellow line here on the pavement. This is actually meant for people who are blind and they have a hard time seeing. They can actually just kind of feel their way along this, and this actually goes throughout the entire country. These lines are absolutely everywhere. To your left, you can see this kind of glass and wooden building here. This is a notable building in the area. It was built in 2012 by a famous architect, one of the top 3 architects, famous architects in Japan. His name is Kengo Kuma. And this building here is actually the travel and the cultural center here. And Kengo Kuma is notable because he's done many, many famous buildings throughout the world, but most recently, he designed the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Stadium. But this is a cool building because on the top of it, it actually has an observatory, which you can see amazing views over Asakusa. You get a nice overview of the area, but it also has a place to fill up your water bottles. It has a nice little lounge. It has a little bit of a cafe, free Wi-Fi, and nice public restrooms too. All right, so I said I would talk about these later on, and I will. This is a koban. If you remember what a small police station is, this is a koban. And why I'm bringing that up is because, again, statistically, Japan is one of the safest countries in the entire world. There's many reasons why that is. Of course, one is going to be, the main one's going to be cultural. It's just a safe place because it's a safe place. But one of the other reasons that people think is because of this koban system. And so what it is, again, it's a small police station. There are over 6,000 of these scattered throughout the country. And what they do, they just kind of break up each district into even tinier districts. And so there's anywhere between 2 to 5 to 10 policemen in this one building, typically around 3 on average. And they just kind of keep their beat in this neighborhood. So they get to know the locals and they stay here. They have to ride their bikes around, just kind of patrol the neighborhood via these kobans. Of course, they do have central police stations, but this is a nice way to kind of, again, get to know the neighborhood. Nowadays, because Japan is so safe, I always tell clients when they come to Japan, listen, don't be afraid to go in and ask for directions. That's kind of their number one job now, is they give directions to lost people, and also they serve as a kind of repository for lost and found. If you ever kind of lose your bag somewhere or your smartphone, then it more than likely is going to be at the nearest koban. Right next to the koban is one of the, it's the crown jewel of the place. This is the Kaminarimon, the Thunder Gate. This is the entrance to Sensoji, the temple, which we're going to see a little bit later. But definitely the most famous gate in Tokyo, if not one of the most famous in the entire country. It's called Kaminarimon, which is the Thunder Gate. See that big lantern there? It's a thunder. To the left and right, you have the gods Fujin and Raijin, the gods of wind and the gods of thunder, just kind of protecting the area from wind and fire, for example. You see, behind the Kaminarimon is a long street, which is called the Nakamise, and it goes about 250 meters, and it ends at the actual temple itself. But this is the oldest shopping street in the country. Dates back from the founding of the temple around 1400 years ago. This, of course, being then the oldest founded temple in Tokyo. But go down this street here, which we will in a second here. We'll go down this street, and it has on the both hand sides, it has shops which sell sweets and accessories and just different things for pilgrims when they come make a pilgrimage to this temple here. See, we're coming right up to it here. And you got to think back when this temple was founded. Again, we'll talk about the history of this temple a little bit later, but people would come from all over the country to worship here. And so when they got here, they maybe had come a long way. So what would they need? They would need new straw sandals. They would need drinks. They would need food. They would need various religious implements. And you could buy them here on this street. And you still can buy all that here today. But of course, they also sell Hello Kitty masks and things like that. Things have changed, but things have also stayed the same. Now, because it is during a pandemic and is a state of emergency, many of these are closed. It is very, very quiet right now. But typically, there's throngs of people here because, remember, it is a working temple. This is a place that sells just Japanese, old kind of style Japanese sweets. For example, manju, which is a cake which is filled with red bean paste, a sweet red bean paste, which is a very typical Japanese dessert. Left here in front of you, you can see this place sells various green tea drinks, as well as, again, little street food sweets. A lot of people who come to Japan, aren't Japanese, feel that Japanese sweets aren't as sweet as it is from Western countries, for example, and that's absolutely true. For a lot of Japanese, Western style sweets are too sweet for them, and kind of vice versa for people coming to Japan. And while that is absolutely true, a lot of Japanese sweets, you got to keep in mind, are made to pair with, for example, green tea. And so if you don't like the red bean paste, for example, the first time you try it, well, try pairing that with a glass of green tea, and it might change your mind completely. To the left, this again just sells various little Japanese nibbles. It sells what's called mochi, which is a pounded rice, which is kind of a glutinous substance. They fill it with various fillings. Right here as well, you can see ice cream. You're never more than 5 feet from ice cream in Japan. Let's get off this main street. We'll come back to it later, but let's get off this main street onto a side street. I always say side streets are the best streets. We'll head into another shoten guy here. This is a hair accessory shop. And this little side street here also has, side streets that go off side streets. And that one of the unique things about Japan, which I think is a huge strength, is that because Japan is so safe, it's one of the only countries that I know of where I would be fine with my clients and myself going down those small alleyways and finding out what's over there. More than likely you're going to find something to tell your friends about. It could be a great hole-in-the-wall restaurant or a nice little bar, or maybe you'll meet somebody who will kind of tell you a little bit about Japan, about the neighborhood. It's always going to be something great to see down these streets. Well, this right here is one of my favorite Japanese sweet shops. This sells what's called Ichigo Daifuku. It's strawberry, but it's inside of, again, that mochi, that kind of pounded rice. And then inside of there is that red bean paste. But it's absolutely, all those things together make it just fantastic to eat. Now, strawberries are in season. Japan, when they eat, it's a very seasonal place to eat various different foods, which are in season. Oh, to your left here is another restaurant. Again, more plastic food. This is more of a seafood type restaurant. And then it has, you can see it has some sushi, some kaisendon, which is basically seafood on top of rice. You have some noodle dishes over here. And then on the bottom here, you can see some fried food. You have some fried shrimp as well as some fried, some panko, bread encrusted pork. But again, prices here aren't too bad. You have anything from about 1,000 yen over to around 2,600 yen. And you get all this is all a set menu. So usually you'll get some rice, you'll get some pickled vegetables, you'll get a little bit of a salad, and then you'll get the main dish itself typically. All right, let's take a left. We'll get off this little side street to kind of go down this area here. One thing that Asakusa definitely has going for it is that, again, it is a quieter, kind of more sedate, older neighborhood. That means it has some amazing history. And so what was Asakusa? Why is it so famous? You guys understand, maybe about 300-400 years ago, in kind of these samurai times with the warrior class, this is where they'd come. This is the playground for them to kind of, I guess, mingle with the general population. And so like the aristocrats and the samurai would all kind of come here and kind of play in this entertainment district. So what kind of entertainment did it have? Well, at the time, it still had theaters, had various live shows. For example, kabuki. Kabuki is an old-style Japanese dancing with the white faces and the intricate, ornate, designed clothing. They also had rakugo. Rakugo is an old-style storytelling, kind of a comedy. You also, at the time, had just various people. For example, sumo wrestlers were here. There's a place just across the way called Ryogoku, which is a stone's throw from here over the river, and that's where the National Sumo Stadium is. And there's lots of different sumo stables, which is what they call them, which is where the sumo kind of live and work together. Different sumo stables here in Asakusa and Ryogoku. And also, Asakusa is one of the handful of places left in the country that actually have geisha who live in them. And geisha, again, are the artisans, the artists, the women who dedicate their lives to dancing and various Japanese arts. And so it could be on a single day in Asakusa, you could find yourself seeing a sumo wrestler, a geisha, and a famous Japanese comedian or movie star. Let's get off this street, and we're going to slowly walk our way back towards that Nakamise, that shopping street we saw earlier. Again, you can see how quiet it is here now in Tokyo. It's coming up on our right. You're going to see one of the most famous things about Asakusa, about this district, is next to Sensoji Temple, which we're going to see in a sec, is a shrine. Kind of a nondescript little shrine. It is a nice little shrine, but that's Asakusa's shrine. And in May of every year, it holds one of the largest festivals in the entire city, called the Sanja Matsuri. And so what it is basically in 3 days, it's a 3-day festival, in 3 days, over 2 million people come to this area to basically worship the gods here. So what this is here on your right, this is called a mikoshi. A mikoshi, this ornate thing right in front of you is a mikoshi, and that is a portable shrine. And so think about it like this, and so the gods are in the shrine, right? He's cooped up in there all year. Got to let that god out. So they transfer the god into this portable shrine, and then they parade it around the city. And there are over 100 of these mikoshi that are kind of in a procession around this Asakusa district, and they weigh over a ton each. They're all handmade. You can kind of see in these pictures here a little bit of what it looks like. Some people actually ride these as they're being paraded around the city, so it is a very lively, very interesting festival to attend and to kind of watch. Again, that happens in May of every year, and it's just a fantastic time to celebrate the culture of this area. Okay, we are back now on the Nakamise, the main shopping, kind of the pilgrim's walk that leads to the temple itself. You can see here this mural on the left, on this side here, is an artist's depiction of the Sanja Matsuri, of what happens during the festival itself. Get a lot of these shutters here because this area is open 24 hours. The shops are not, but it all lit up at night, and the temple is as well. And instead of just having a big gray block of closed shutters, they have decided to paint them. And so a lot of these you can actually see, for example, depictions of local folklore, depictions of various scenes of literature, and kind of what the shops actually sell themselves. And so it's a nice way to kind of put some color into what could be just a drab section of closed shutters. So now we are getting closer to Sensoji Temple. You can see to the left, again, a little sight right here. You can see a little bit of older architecture. One thing that definitely gets pointed out every time people come to Japan is, what are these here? These vending machines are ubiquitous around Japan. I personally love talking about them. I'm going to give a little bit of a lesson on vending machines. It might sound strange, but you'll see why in a second. So there are over 4 million of these vending machines around the country, which is a lot of vending machines. And the vending machine technology here is kind of nuts. This one here is a pretty basic one, but it has a kind of a cool feature to it, which most vending machines do have. And so this vending machine here, right? You can get your various tea and your water, and here is a kind of a vitamin energy drink. And in summer and winter, drinks are different. In the winter, you can actually buy hot drinks and cold drinks in the same machine. But anyway, now it's summer, and so you can just get cold drinks. But one cool thing about it is these cards here are your transport, your IC cards, your transport cards. You use these cards to navigate the train systems. So the subway and the above ground trains, you can use this, just tap in and tap out to get to where you want to go. But these are also cool in that you can use these at the vast majority of shops around the country as well. But you can also use them to buy drinks out of vending machines. So here's what you got to do, right? Let's say I want to buy this drink right here. Press the button, put my card there, and now you've bought a drink out of a vending machine in Japan. So again, in my career here in Japan, you name it, I've bought it out of a vending machine. I have bought hot dogs, I've bought sea batteries, I once bought a cassette tape. I once bought an entire suit out of a vending machine minus the jacket, just to say I bought a suit out of a vending machine. So really, you name it, it's in a vending machine somewhere. Let's continue on. Right there, I was going to talk about it earlier, let's talk about it now. This is a better view of the Skytree. That's Tokyo Skytree. This is built in 2011. It is the second tallest structure in the entire world after the Burj Hotel in Dubai, as of right now anyway. But basically it's a broadcast tower. It's for television and radio. It has a great observatory at the top there. It has an observatory level, and it's 634 meters tall. At the base of it, it has an entire mini city in itself called the Soramachi, the Sky Town. And that is a great place to go shopping as well. There, again, it has a nice observatory at the top, but in my opinion, there are other ones to go to. It is expensive, a little bit expensive to go up there, and you do have to make a reservation. There are other, of course, shorter views, but I think a little more reasonably priced, even free, some of them. Let's continue on. To your left here is actually a kindergarten. That's a kindergarten that is on the temple grounds here. It's a pretty exclusive kindergarten here on the grounds. One thing that is super interesting and I think unique to Inside Japan, as insiders, is I have a daughter. A lot of us have children, and we're married here in Japan. I can tell you what it's like from a Western's perspective. I can give you my insights. What is it like to navigate the Japanese school system? What is it like to go to the hospital in Japan? What's it like to pay your taxes, buy a car, learn Japanese, buy a house? What is it like to do all these things? I can tell you from my perspective as an American, doing all these things in Japan, I think it's a real strength because it's kind of a shorthand. You can kind of tell, like, this is what you're doing. I know exactly what that's like because I came to Japan, just like everybody else, for the first time, knowing nothing and just falling in love with the place. And so hopefully I can kind of give that experience to people when they come to Japan themselves. Again, right here, we're walking. You might think that right there in front of us, well, that's it. That's Sensoji Temple, right? Well, no, that's actually the second gate. We saw the first gate, which is the Kaminarimon, the Thunder Gate. This is the second gate. So after that, beyond that, is the actual temple itself. Well, why is this temple here? What's the history of it? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So the story goes that in the mid 600s, around 13, 14 years ago, there were two brothers who were fishermen, and they were fishing in the Sumida River, the river we saw at the beginning here. And one day, they threw their net out, and along with a bunch of fish, they also caught a statue of the goddess Kannon, the goddess of mercy. If you've ever had a Canon camera, that's named after her. So they caught this statue, they freaked out, didn't know what to do with it, so they threw it back in the water. Right, the next day, they went fishing again, caught the same statue, freaked out again, and threw it back in the water. Third day, went out, caught the same statue again, said, all right, this must mean something. And so they hauled the statue in and brought it to, I guess, the headman of the village, brought it to his house. He knew, oh, this is something important. So he made his house into a small temple for that statue. Well, people came from all over the country to see this statue and to worship the goddess Kannon. And so the temple got bigger and bigger and bigger. A few decades go by, and the head monk at the time says, all right, listen, this statue is too important and too holy for anybody to see. And so they hid it away, and they made a replica. And they said, this is a replica, but nobody cared. They wanted to see the replica. And so again, for hundreds of years, people came here. The temple got bigger and bigger and bigger to see this replica. A little while goes by, and again, the head monk at that time said, all right, well, this replica is too important and too holy for anybody to see. We're going to hide it away. And so the story goes that this replica and the original are actually hidden away at the top of this secondary gate behind many different locks, and no one has seen it for 1,000 years, not even the head monks at that time. And some people think, well, no, they're just lost. I like to think that they are in there, right? It makes for a better story. This is kind of the start of this temple. From those humble beginnings, it became this huge complex and one of the most visited religious sites in the country. So to your left, you have Sensoji Pagoda. You just see the top of it over the trees. We'll get a better view pretty soon, but it's a 5-story pagoda looking real nice. About 3 or 4 years ago, it got a fresh coat of paint, and so it's looking really nice. Again, one of the handful of 5-story pagodas left in the country, still standing. Right, going up to the secondary gate, you see another big lantern there. You have Neo on the left and right, kind of guardians, statues, this place. See, just like the previous lantern, underneath here is a carved dragon. In Eastern culture, Japan especially, dragons are known to be good creatures. They're good luck, they're heavenly creatures, as opposed to maybe the Western depiction of a dragon, which is something that's evil, it's a villain, it causes destruction, it always kidnaps princesses, that kind of thing. But in Japan, they're good creatures. They're known to be, again, from heaven. And then in front of you, that is the main hall of Sensoji. That is Sensoji Temple right there. Again, it's laid out beautifully. And if people come to Japan, a lot of times they stay for the first couple of days here in this Asakusa district because it is quieter. And it's a nice kind of way to dip your foot into the city rather than go to the big glitz and glamour at the beginning and be overwhelmed. But it's just beautifully laid out. And this is, again, one of the most visited historical places, religious places in the country. But right now, as you can see, it's very, very quiet and very peaceful. Over here, one thing I personally love to explain and to show people is if you go to really the majority, any temple or shrine in Japan, you're going to hear a certain sound. So I'll show you what that is. So this right here is mikuji. This is omikuji. This is basically your fortune. All right, so I'm going to show you how to just choose your fortune here in Japan. All right. So what you want to do first of all, you get 100 yen. Yeah. You put it into the slot there, and then you take this guy. This is the sound that you hear all the time. So there's a hole at the top of this, right? You put it at the bottom, and then you shake it until eventually, see, a stick will come out the bottom. And you take it and you look at the number. That is a number in characters there. And then you put it back in here. Then you line up which drawer, these are all numbered drawers. Well, which drawer did you have? Yeah, this one here. Take out the fortune, which is at the top of it here. And this is your fortune. So here, there are about 12 different fortunes, anything ranging from just stay in bed to you are a god. And so, I'm going to see what your fortunes in a second. This one is actually translated in English here, and they're not translated very well, but we'll see what fortune I got. Yep. Oh, bad fortune. It's unfortunate. Let's read what it says a little bit. Like a high building hidden in fog, your desire is always hidden in clouds. Like a beautiful lady goes on the water, your behavior always seems to be dangerous. Your wish is hard to be realized. The sick person is in danger. It goes on. It's super grim. If you get a good one, you're super lucky. Well, then take it, fold it up, put it in your bag, and keep it with you for the rest of your life. You'll have good luck, right? If you get a bad one, well, you don't want to keep it with you because that's bad luck, right? But you also don't want to throw it away because that's even worse luck. So what do? Well, you can basically use one of the many Japanese loopholes in various things, right? So here's how you get rid of your bad luck. You want to take the paper here, fold it lengthwise like so. It's like this, right? And then bring it over here. Typically you can, tie it to a cherry blossom tree or something and look at it, but you can't do that in this district. And so they set these up here, right? So you want to take it just like these have here, put it up here, and then you can tie it to the pole like that. And now, eventually, the wind will take your fortune away. You didn't throw it away, that would be bad luck, but the wind will take it away for you. Nowadays, that's littering. And so the monks will come by every now and then, take them off, burn them, and then your bad luck will go up in the heavens. So regardless if you get a good one or a bad one, you're gonna have good luck if you come here. Moving on. Getting a good picture of the pagoda there that we saw earlier. And to the right, so in front of us here, that's called omamori. Basically, these can be translated as amulets or talismans. Basically, they're just good luck charms. They've all been kind of prayed over and written by monks. You can get them for anything, for just generally good luck, or to ward off evil, or of course to get more money, for a healthy childbirth, for example. I always tell people, if you come to Japan, you get in a taxi, more than likely the taxi driver is going to have a one for good, safe driving dangling from their mirror. So one thing that is kind of everywhere in shrines and temples is purification, right? And so how do you purify yourself? Well, there's two different ways. You can purify yourself using smoke or water. So right in front of you here is a big incense burner. And so what you do is you get some incense, or maybe there's some stuff in there already, and then you put the smoke wherever you need it. Put smoke on your head. If you get headaches, you put it on your head. If you have bad backs, put it on your back. If you want to get pregnant, put it on your stomach. If you want just general good health, you just put it all over your body. And that way you can purify yourself, and you end up smelling pretty good after that anyway. The second one, water, as you can see kind of in front of you. You can purify your hands and your mouth. Now, because it's a pandemic, they don't have the ladles which you can use, and so there's a very specific way to do it. And so if you come to Japan, Inside Japan, I'll teach you the exact right way how to do it, because there's so many different ways to do it, but I know the right way to do it. And so right now, there are no ladles, but this is one way you can purify yourself, your hands and your mouth, is with water purification. So there's two types, water and smoke. This is the main hall of Sensoji. You can't film inside, but it does have beautiful mural on the ceiling of the goddess Kannon, the goddess of mercy, and her dragons. Can't see inside, but just picture a lot of gold, a lot of red wood, and a lot of statues. All right, going off of the main road here, I want to kind of just explore a little bit of the extant temples. It's a huge temple complex. Sensoji actually goes about a mile down the river. There's another even a different temple there, which is a part of Sensoji. There's also a nice little garden too. There's two left. You can see that is a seated bronze Buddha. It dates back from about the mid 1600s, and it's a tangible cultural property, which is just below a national treasure. The next to it is a bronze pagoda, which dates back from about the same time period. Again, is a tangible cultural property. Because like a lot of Tokyo, about 80% of Tokyo was destroyed in World War II. Some stuff like that did survive, which is always nice to kind of see pockets of history in this very, very old country. I will pop into this little tiny garden here. It's in front of this other temple building. See lots of temples and shrines have koi fish, really colorful carp. Fun fact too, this bridge is actually the oldest stone bridge in the city, dates back from 1616. A small bridge, but culturally and historically important. To your right here, you have the Yogodo. The Yogodo is actually the newest building in this whole complex here. It was built to celebrate the 1200th anniversary of the founding of Sensoji. Cross over this stone bridge here and get a nice little overview of the garden. And right here is a statue of Jizo. Jizo is the patron saint of children and travelers. Right here you see these colorful pieces of paper here. This is origami. It's the Japanese art of folding paper. And so what these are cranes. If you take them and unfold them, it becomes a crane. They've folded a bunch of them and then just put a string through them and then put them here as an offering. Many elementary school students in Japan will make cranes as part of a class activity, and then they'll send them to various temples and shrines around the country, especially in Hiroshima. Hiroshima is known as the peace, the city of peace, and the crane here in Japan is a symbol of peace. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this leisurely stroll through beautiful Asakusa district in Tokyo. We really hope to see you in Japan. Thanks for coming, everybody.